Hey everybody, doing my video a little early today. I'm going to be heading out of town with my daughter for a church retreat tonight, so wanted to make sure that I did my daily video for y'all. And today we are going to talk about one of the sad facts of homeschooling, and that is that not everybody is going to be supportive of the choice that you are making. And unfortunately, some of those people who are not going to be supportive are going to be the very people who should be the most supportive. That could be family, that could be really close friends. It's a sad fact that people do not always react well when other people make choices that they don't agree with. And actually, anybody who's on Facebook knows that that is the case, because half of Facebook these days is everyone fighting about everybody else's choices and opinions that they don't like. Unfortunately, when it comes to family, though, it can really hurt when the people who are supposed to be supportive are not. And I'm very blessed that I've never had to worry about this with my family or my in-laws or any of my friends really at all, which has been a huge blessing, and I know is probably kind of rare. I think most people end up, excuse me, with at least one person in their life who is not supportive or is very, very skeptical. They might not come out and say you're making the wrong decision, but they have all sorts of questions, and they're really concerned about their socialization and what are you going to do how are they going to get into college and all of this stuff, because they don't understand. And when you step back and you think of it that way and just remind yourself, these people have not spent the time that you have spent looking into this. These people have not done all of the thinking and worrying and praying and reading and everything else that you have done, because they have not been in your shoes. They're not the ones whose child is falling through the cracks at school, or they're not the ones whose child is being bullied. When we are in situations, we see things very differently than those who are not in those situations, right? So what do you do? How do you handle this? What do you do with these people? Well, okay, so we've got kind of two different camps here. We have family and we have friends. Obviously, it can be a little hard to just cut family off. Probably not always going to be the first move you're going to want to make. Now, if this has been like time and again, they're constantly unsupportive about everything and they're constantly being toxic in one way or another, well, maybe it is kind of time to start putting up some boundaries and limiting your connection and your communication with these people. But you have to remember that, like I said, they don't have the information that you have. And if you were not in the situation you're in right now, you would not have the information that you have. And so it would be just as easy for you to respond the way that they're responding if one of your good friends came and told you that they were going to start homeschooling, okay? I'm not saying you would be judgmental, but you wouldn't have the information. And if it weren't for the fact that you are in this position right now of of being faced with needing to make different decisions for your child's education to help them, you would not have the same body of knowledge either. So we need to look at these people with some grace and remind ourselves that, okay, if things were different, I wouldn't have this information either. However, that does not mean that you have to put up with their crap, okay? You never have to put up with anybody's crap. Even family, you're allowed to set boundaries with family. It can be really, really hard to do. I'm not saying this is an easy thing. However, you do not need anybody else's toxicity and negativity and doubt coming in and clouding your judgment and making what is already probably a very difficult decision even more difficult, okay? So you need to set a boundary. If it's in-laws, I would say make your husband set this boundary. Or if you are the husband, make the wife set the boundary with the in-laws. And say, look, I would be happy to get you some resources to help you understand why we're making this choice if you're interested. However, this is our decision to make. We have researched this like crazy. We're not just jumping into this half-baked without doing our due diligence. We know what we're doing. We believe this is the best thing for us to do for this child, these children. Nothing is set in stone. We may change our mind someday, but for now, this is what we're going to do. I understand if you don't get it. I understand if you don't agree. However, I don't want to have any more conversations about it. And I need to ask you not to bring it up with my kids. If my kids say to you, hey, in school I'm learning XYZ, mom and I are going to this museum, or we're doing, whatever. I need you to be supportive. I need you to say, hey, that's great. Sounds really fun. What else are you learning? But do not try to quiz my child. Do not try to tell your child, oh gosh, it's such a shame that you don't get to be with your friends at school anymore. Or aren't you lonely? And ask them questions like that are subtly trying to turn your child, my child, against homeschooling. If you aren't able to abide by this boundary, we're going to need to limit communication for a while. It's going to be a super hard conversation to have. I'm no doubt, and I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but particularly your children do not need to hear other people slagging on your decision that you have made as a parent, and putting doubts in their head, especially if this is not necessarily a choice that they're super excited about either. Not every kid who comes home to be homeschooled is excited about it. And so to have somebody who's on the outside constantly kind of poking that wound, that's not going to help things, right? So with friends, kind of the same thing, really. I can understand if you don't want to cut, with parents or family too, I can understand if you don't want to cut things off with people. And it's okay to just say, hey, this is not something that I think we can keep having conversations about. I'm really sorry. I know that you don't agree, and I totally get what you're saying. I understand your concerns. I don't have those concerns. It's just it's not something I'm worried about, and I really feel like we're making the right decision for our family. So this is how we're this is what we're gonna do, and I'm really hoping that we can stay friends and we can still hang out and have coffee and whatever. But the bottom line is that you're not obligated to put up with anybody's crap. All right, you're not obligated to become a homeschool evangelist and apologist who has all of the facts and figures at your fingertips that you can toss out into every conversation when someone starts bagging on homeschooling. If you want to be that person, go for it, but you're not required to. And there is no reason why you have to feel like this is something that you now have to do. You now have to defend yourself to every person out there. No, you don't. That child is your child. You make those decisions, nobody else. And if they don't like the decision, tough peanuts, oh well. And if they can't be an adult about it, that is also not your problem. And sometimes that just means having to say, I'm really sorry, but this dynamic isn't working right now. I think maybe we need to take a little break, or, maybe we shouldn't talk about this anymore for a while, or whatever you're comfortable saying. But the bottom line is you have the right to say those things and to stick up for yourself and for your child. Now, unfortunately, I would love to say that once you are in the homeschooling community, you're going to be welcomed with open arms and everybody is going to be super accepting of everything that you do, however you decide to homeschool, whatever curriculum you decide to use, whatever. And unfortunately, because human beings are flawed and fallen people, that's not always going to be the case. There will probably be other homeschoolers who are going to look down their nose at you for using that curriculum, or, oh, you're doing that kind of homeschooling. Judgmental. Sadly, even in the homeschooling community, you're going to get the same kind of cliques. You're going to get the same kind of judgmental people, the same kind of skeptics, the same kind of, every other stereotype that you find in any other social circle, right? So, unfortunately, you may find yourself meeting people who are also not really supportive, even though they should be. And honestly, it's kind of the same thing. Now, at least in that community, you're coming into it new. These aren't relationships that you've probably had for very long. And so it's going to be a little easier to kind of cut them off before they get any deeper. One of the moms in our group actually messaged me today and was asking, how do I handle another homeschooling parent who is constantly putting down my child's successes and milestones? And my first thought is, my gosh, how petty are people? What the heck? Why on earth would anybody knock anybody else's kid for doing well at something? Obviously, this woman has something going on. She's either highly insecure or she is highly competitive, or she's both, right? It's a perfect storm. Whatever the answer is, she's also highly immature because she's choosing to do this. And I gave her basically the same advice that I just gave y'all about handling other people. It's okay to stop having these conversations. And sometimes, we find people that in one way or another we really click with, but there's just this one thing, this one topic that we really don't see eye to eye on. And we kind of have to decide, how are we going to handle this? Are we going to allow ourselves to keep going into this topic with this person? Or are we going to find ways to just kind of go around it, just make it real general? And that was one of the other things I told this mom. I said, look, if she brings things up, how is little Johnny doing with his reading? Just say, he's doing great. How's your little Johnny doing with his reading? Or wasn't that great that the homeschool group's doing that skate night next week? Are you guys going to go? Just change the topic, right? I used to be in an online group for gentle Christian parents, and we did something. Everyone talked about doing what we'd call bean dip, passing the bean dip, which was basically just a way of changing the topic. So, little Johnny's doing great. Oh, would you like some bean dip? Let's just change the topic, shall we? So these are things that we have to do sometimes to keep the peace. And you get to decide, do you want to keep the peace or do you want to get out of this relationship? Depending on how big your homeschooling community is, it might be hard to avoid those people. You might kind of keep running into them. If your kids are friends, that's going to make it even more difficult. What are you going to do? So you just have to decide, how am I going to handle this? Am I going to cut this person off entirely? Am I going to tell them, hey, this is a topic we need to avoid because I really want to keep hanging out with you and I really love you, really like you. I just don't think we can talk about this anymore. Or do you not even want to address it? And you just kind of want to, when it comes up, just find ways to navigate around it and keep things real general or whatever. So I wish I had better news for you. I wish I could tell you that every single person is going to jump for joy and be super excited and supportive for you. Sadly, that's not going to happen, but you'll certainly find it in this group, plenty of people who are going to celebrate your successes with you and are going to cheerlead you and support you and be encouraging and help you. And you'll find those in other places too. So don't despair. It can be really hard sometimes to find your tribe. And Skylar just commented and said other homeschool families have been the hardest for us to get through. Sometimes people who have been like homeschooling from the beginning, it's cliques, right? It's just like when you join any new thing, you move into a new town, you move into a new area, you start a new job or whatever, and all these relationships have already been formed. And it can be really hard to break in, which sucks. And again, people can be so petty, and I just don't understand sometimes how people can be like that. If you are new, oh my gosh, here's an idea. In your local, whatever you have, if there's a Facebook group for your local homeschoolers or some kind of, if you're part of like a state level organization for homeschoolers or whatever, look for all the new families that are new like you and say, hey, looking for all of the new homeschoolers or people who are going to start homeschooling next year. Let's meet at Chick-fil-A on Wednesday morning, or let's meet at the park at 9 and make your own group. If these people aren't going to let you in and they're going to be stupid and petty like that, then Look for other people who are in the same boat as you, other people who are also trying to get in, and get together with them, and just keep trying. I mean, unfortunately, one of the reasons sometimes that people can be kind of closed off to new people is because they've been burned. There have been other people who've been new, who've come into the organization or come into the group, and they've really thrown things off with with a really bad attitude, or with they came in and they kind of started trying to shake things up, or they, maybe they were really crappy parents and they let their kids like bully other families, their other kids, or whatever. I mean, you never know what it is that's causing people to be like that. And so, it sucks that they can't be more open-minded and they can't see past what has maybe happened with other people and realize, hey, not every new person that comes in is going to be trying to jack up our dynamic here. But just recognize there's obviously something going on that is making them be that closed off. So sometimes maybe it's easier if you start seeing someone that you think you would connect with, maybe try to like get them away from the crowd, not try to break in with everybody. Try to break in with just that one person. Or if you see like at meetups or something, if your kid is really clicking with somebody else's kid, reach out to them at the end, maybe when they're not hanging around with all the other parents, and say, oh, my daughter had so much fun playing with your daughter. And, we're new to homeschooling and we're trying to find some homeschool friends. I'm super excited that she seems to really click with your daughter. How would you feel about meeting for coffee at Chick-fil-A next week? And they can play in the play area and we can hang out. I would love to, here's what you do. I would love to get your advice. I would love to hear, because I know you're a veteran homeschooler and you've been doing this a while. I would love to maybe, ask you some questions. Who doesn't like feeling like, oh, somebody wants my help? Somebody thinks I'm an expert? Oh my God, of course I'll help you, So maybe kind of, put them in a position to where they want to help you. But keep trying and look for those other people that are in the same situation that you're in and who are looking for friends too. If you just cannot break in with these people, sometimes you got to make your own tribe. And, circling back to family and stuff, and then this is something I posted in the group a couple days ago about when specifically talking about trying to convince your husband to get on board with homeschooling. If you've got family members who are super skeptical or whatever, I have a free ebook that is called Busting the Homeschooling Myths, and we cover the top 10 myths about homeschooling that are the things that keep most people from even wanting to try because they think they know the truth about homeschooling, but they don't. So if you go to our website, which is goodschooling.net, right on the front page there, you'll see the book, and you can download that and share that with them or send a link to whoever needs to read it and say, hey, I think this could really help you understand why we have chosen to homeschool, why we don't have the same concerns that you do, why we're cool with this. But I know I've actually talked to a number of people who have done that for their spouses or for other family members, and who have said that it was really helpful for them to not be the one having to give all the answers and being able to just say, hey, all the answers are like over here in this book. You should just go read this. Kind of takes the pressure off of them and would take the pressure off of you. So just wanted to throw that out there so you know that you have that resource. And that is free. You just give us your email address so we can get you into our little community group on our website where you can download all of our free downloadables. So that's it. I am really sorry if any others of you, obviously there's at least one of you that's going through this. I hope not more of you are, or at least a couple, I should say. But keep looking for that tribe, keep looking for the different groups, and never be afraid to start your own, because certainly you are not the only one. With the rate at which homeschooling is growing, there are plenty of people out there who are looking for support. And chances are, if you're having a hard time breaking in, they are too. And so they're looking for you, they're looking for somebody else who's in the same boat. So if you just kind of throw that out there, you might be surprised how much of a response you get. And then you'd have a tribe. But you always have our tribe. So definitely keep coming here and let us know how we can support you. Okay? Hope y'all have a great rest of your Friday. I will do a live video tomorrow. I'm not sure when and I'm not sure how, but by hook or by crook, I will do something. So have a great day. See y'all later. Take care.